Here we go. Hello and welcome to Swift Talk, a series where we chat about everything happening at Swift Shift. My name is Maddie and I'm the marketing coordinator at Swift Shift, and I'm joined today by my co-host Amy and our one of our LPNs at Golden Care, Jesse. Hey guys, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Very good. Let me fix my screen. Sorry. Okay. So thanks again for being here today for another episode. We're excited to be back. Today we're going to be discussing burnout in home care. So we want to touch on its impact on the industry at large, and then what we're doing as a team to change this. So we'll hop right in with some questions for Jesse. Jesse, why don't you introduce yourself and give us a little background on you and your career and what attracted you to Swift Shift from the start?
Sure. So I'm from Dunmore, Pennsylvania. I was kind of on the fence with a lot of things coming out of high school, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and I want to just jump right into college without really giving it my all. And I found that I wanted to do something meaningful for sure. Like regardless of what it was, I wanted to go to work every day and feel like I was making an impact. So my older brother went to nursing school, and he was like, I think that you would genuinely enjoy this. And I found like a 1-year LPN program, so I figured like, why not? It's quick, I'm in, I'm out, and if I don't like it, worst case scenario, at least I have a quality job that I could always work until I figure out what I want to do. And I got into home health. The personal connection with the patient is what kind of like brought me to that. I always know what's going on. I'm like their person, so I'm always kept on the speed. I know what to expect. And the flexibility was also like awesome with my schedule. So I jumped into that after being like an aide for 2 years. So I kind of got like my feet wet with it, and then a nurse for 4 years. So I've been in it for like 5 or 6.
That's awesome. And so like, since we're going to talk about burnout today, like what do you know about burnout, especially in the home care industry? And have you experienced it personally, or do you see your like colleagues experiencing it?
Yeah, burnout's like a very widespread thing, I think, especially now with the whole pandemic. It kind of like almost, I think, boosted a lot of it for a lot of people. I would say it's a different burnout. There's like a burnout like of being like a lot of these hospital nurses that are on the floors of these COVID units are probably experiencing a lot of burnout because they're there day in, day out. They're working endlessly. And like that could be a form of burnout. And there's also, I think, a form of burnout where like a lot of nurses, like I said, right now, we're kind of getting like this, oh, you guys are heroes, this and that and the other thing. But there's no like real like backup to what we do. And we're kind of brought up through nursing to kind of be like, you guys are like, this is your lifestyle and you have to be the like superhero that does everything. And we're all like humans. So I think like we kind of, nurses tend to kind of be like, I have to do this, or I have to push myself to my limits because I have to be the best I can possibly be. And I think there's like a lot of like things that lack in nursing that could be provided for nurses, like healthcare, being that nurses are like the backbone of healthcare. A lot of nurses don't have health insurance at all, which is incredible. It's like, how does that even work out? A lot of people say like, oh, like nurses deserve to be paid more, this and that, but there's never like an actual like foundation of answers to give to nurses. It's always like, you deserve to be paid more. Well, it's like, well, how much more? Or you deserve this. And it's like, well, how do we do that? It's like, not that it's a lot of emptiness, but there's like no time for nurses to really even step back and reevaluate what we do because it's like constantly going. And I think that's kind of like where burnout comes in, because there's not a time where we can kind of like pump the brakes on things when, especially now where like hospitals are flipping bedrooms almost to just get the next patient in and then get them out and then make room. It's very fast paced.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for sharing. You kind of touched on a lot of points we're going to touch on as we go along. So we're going to kind of switch over to Amy's side, more of the agency side of things. But thank you, Jesse, for sharing that. So Amy, I guess with your background in home care, what negative effects have you seen burnout cause in this industry, and like why do you see it as a problem for caregivers? I guess Jesse.
Yeah, I think. Jesse hit on a lot of really good points, right? Because I think nurses do have this incredible pressure. I remember when I started nursing school, my professors were like, you can't work. You have to basically, for the next 2 years of your life, dedicate your entire life to this program. And I was like, this just doesn't make sense to me, right? Like, why are they putting so much pressure on it? So it starts at that point. And then as caregivers, we're just naturally like, I'm going to take care of everybody else before I take care of myself, which then in turn causes other issues, right? I always, laugh about on the airplane, put your air mask on first before everybody else, but we don't do that, right? In this world of nursing particularly, or even caregiving. So I think it leads to other problems potentially, right? For that individual nurse or, caregiver and just says, hey, I don't even want to do this anymore, which is ultimately a problem. Because then it's attracting and getting more, nurses and aides and therapists. And I mean, anyone in the healthcare field, I think, feels that incredible pressure right now. And it's not just like something new, right? This has happened for years since it, back in the 1800s, probably it happened. So I think it's a problem in the regards like making sure we recognize it and that we have tools to actually provide and give people a break. Because ultimately, if they give up, patients don't get care, now where are they going? Either they're going to the hospital, which maybe they can or cannot even get in at this point, or the family takes on that. And the whole cycle just kind of continues. So that's the way I look at it, is negatively.
Yeah. And how do you see this burnout causing a problem with like cost of healthcare overall? Do you see that happening?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously if someone's home right now, the cost is less, right? We know that traditionally, anywhere from 10 to 20 times less than a hospital, depending on the setting. And so if they're pushed back to the hospital, again, can they even get in? Or, are they potentially going to die because of not having caregiver, and they can't go somewhere else in the family, the family burns out themselves. So, I mean, there's negative effects from the patients, because if we don't have adequate caregivers and we don't have the caregiver, like the family support, ultimately it could have negative, effects and going to drive up costs no matter what for the healthcare system.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess now we realize it's an issue. We've talked about it, and I'm sure you've seen this over time. So what made you realize that you were able to make a change? And like with the Swift Shift team, what made you realize that this change needed to happen? And kind of, I guess we can get into what is that solution, at least for us right now.
Yeah. For us, it's really about empowering the nurses to tell us what they need, right? Mm-hmm. And then acting on that as much as we can, right? We can't do every single thing every single minute, but we can definitely try to make incremental changes. And I think the beauty with Swift Shift is we do have a fairly small back office team, and so we are very responsive and quick. And our tech people are really, good about making a change. We were just talking about this last week. In a software company, when you use an off-the-shelf kind of platform, hey, Jesse, you say, hey, I don't like this feature. You can't just change that overnight, right? And we have the ability to do some of that stuff with our own platform, which is nice and also responsive to the feedback we're getting. And then just really listening to all of our team members. And when do they need a break? When do they need a personal day? Hey, checking in with them, making sure that they're really good, and them with each other. I think that's the other thing. I think this network of people we're building is helping them to feel like they're not on an isolated island, which in home care specifically, sometimes you can feel that way, right, Jesse?
Oh yeah.
You don't always say you don't have the backup button on the wall that's, calls for emergency. You are it until 911 gets there, right? So
yeah.
Yeah. So Jesse, you're newer to our team, but so far, like, how have you seen this work on your end? Like this team model, this nurse managed model, like, do you feel more supported in your work? I mean, again, like you're new, but can you see these changes happening, and can you see like a positive impact coming later down the line for like nurses in general with this model?
Yeah. This is all very new to me as well. Like everything going from what a traditional, I think, I don't want to say a traditional way of doing home health, but this new model where I'm at now, just having everything like on my tablet right there, like in my hands, that alone is very like, it takes a lot off my shoulders because everything I need is right in there. Even as far as like, I'm the only like nurse that I at my case now, so there isn't like a team around me just yet. But reaching out to people like from the office just through the tablet, always like quick responses. It's very, it's not very. I don't want to say it's not professional, but like when I'm talking to people, like, you know, it's like, oh, like, yeah, this, that, LOL, or like smiley face emojis and things like. It's not like, oh, like this is the office. You have to be like super professional here. Like it's very family oriented, and that's nice because I kind of feel like I have people to bounce off of, or I could at least go to them in comfort knowing that they can help me. And if I'm just overlooking something, they can kind of just point it out, and it's all good, you know?
Yeah.
I think you made a comment that made me think about something. In traditional agencies, it's very much that office versus field staff, like separation. Mm-hmm. And I think we all have felt it. And, you know, you've probably felt it. And I think your point about just being able to have casual conversations without having to call somebody or text somebody or wait for somebody to call me back, right? Like just instantaneous. I think that I actually haven't even valued that as much as hearing it from you just reminded me about why are we all trying to do the same thing, right? We're not, it shouldn't be us versus you or, you know, vice versa.
And Amy, that kind of reminds me of when we first kind of started getting into this agency space. And I was like, I don't think they know who we are. Like they think we're robots behind, like we need to break this wall down. So I could see, like, I wasn't that familiar with that like barrier until I was like, I think they think we're like robots behind a computer screen, but we're real people and we should get to know them, and we have. And I've like seen the difference in like chatting with people in the field versus like our team in the office. I think I've seen that wall break down. It's really cool to see. So
yeah, there's it's nice to have, like from when you have like that family connection almost with, like in a whole team of everyone. I think it just kind of makes the job like a lot more easy to go to in general because you feel like you're all there together. You're all like everyone knows each other. Everyone's comfortable with each other. Once you take that away, or if it becomes like automated or something where like you're talking to robots all the time, that's like when the isolation kicks in. And you're just kind of just like you're already in the home health. We're already by ourselves already. You know what I mean? We don't have like coworkers to talk to in the break room or whatever. Yeah. So like to have like that very fun, relaxed environment, it like does a whole lot.
That's awesome. And I guess to kind of wrap up this conversation and get like a little more specific, Amy, how are we working to care for our team members' well-being? And also, I guess on the other side, how are we able to provide some of these benefits that home care giants that people are typically familiar with do not provide?
You know, we just did an employee survey just to get feedback from what people want. And so we're working really hard to get some of those in place. One of the biggest feedback that we got was personal and professional development. So, you know, reaching out to our networks and figuring out how to, you know, provide some of that support for you guys to help you grow. Also, you know, just building this community with bigger and bigger, you know, mass of people helps everybody to say, hey, bounce ideas off of each other and like put things into the channel that ultimately, you know, other people might be able to benefit from, whether you're in Pennsylvania or Minnesota or Texas or Oregon or wherever, right? And I think, you know, as we see social media platforms, you know, all restrictions aside, the fact that people want that. People like are looking for, you know, that best advice or, you know, thinking about relocating or whatever they want to do. So I think just providing that community effort is one thing that we found very effective. We also don't have various like different levels of benefits or, you know, so PTO, we give it to everybody, right? So that's something that a lot of people don't get. You know, health insurance is really important. Like you said, Jesse, we like value that a lot. And so the difference, again, between that whole office environment versus the field environment, I would say we've eliminated that because everybody's kind of on the same playing field and we treat everybody as if they are our family members. So I think that's part of it. And by how we're able to do it, one, we have some great technical resources, but also because we don't have all this overhead and we're not back office heavy, that's how we can give it to the, give more money to the employees and that are actually providing the care, as well as the other benefits as well.
Yeah, well, thank you. Does anyone have any closing thoughts before we wrap up? But other than that, those were all my questions. Cool. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Betsy, for joining.
Yeah, thank you again for being here. This was awesome. We're going to get some more people in to talk on Swift Talk, and we're excited to continue to release these episodes. So thanks, guys. Amy, I will see you next time. And Jesse, thanks for being here. Hopefully you'll come back soon.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks.